Hey, what's up? This is Jake here in Jake's shop. Today, I got a brand new rough country bumper for my 2500 HD GMC pickup. We'll do a couple little tips and tricks, show you where I'd like to start on something like this and see what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so the reason I'm replacing my bumper is because I like to back in and run over Ford Priuses and the occasional Tesla. And I've got a few little dings on this old bumper. A new one was in the 300 plus range. I went with Rough Country. I had really good luck with their shocks. So the first thing you do is take that license plate off, and then we'll get the spare tire down and out of the way, and I'll show you what's next. Okay, about an hour later, I bought this truck for a really good deal in Canada, and that lock was so corroded. There's actually a drain hole that you're not going to be able to see in the bottom of the shroud where it comes out of the back of the bumper. Let's see if we can see anything back here. Yeah, it's kind of not really focusing for us, but that little piece right there, there's a whole drain hole in the bottom of it that you can normally get a screwdriver in and push the pin on the back of the lock mechanism. Now you can see in my lock mechanism, this pin just sits right back in here, right? And your key would go in here, and you could push that pin up. But this truck was so corroded, I couldn't push this from inside to move that thing. That's why I had to mess with it in general, because my key wouldn't move this lock mechanism. So a drill, just drilled it out, popped right out, spun the sheath on the inside. But I won't be reusing this lock in the new bumper, so I wasn't worried about ruining it. On to the next step. Okay, got her unboxed. I ordered this directly from Rough Country. Initial check on quality here is I'm very impressed, especially for the price point too. I believe this is got to be 1/8 inch, and then the only thing it appears to be 12 gauge is like the license plate, and actually that's 1/8 inch too. All laser cut. This is not plasma out or anything or stamped. This is all laser cut. Keeps it from warping. So far so good. I really like the pads on the top. You know, the reason I went with the Rough Country bumper is to make this truck a little more rugged looking, and also I really wanted to keep the side steps. I also have rear backup sensors that are tweaking out because of all the Priuses I ran over. The other thing that this comes with is obviously the light kit. Everything was really nicely boxed directly from Rough Country here, and there's no scratches, no dings, very well wrapped. So first things first, we got to take out the sensors. There's a little clip on the back of each of those rear indicator sensors for backing up and parking and not running into connexes at work. So I'll get those unplugged from the back, as well as the harness from here. And I chose to remove the spare tire. I don't know if you might be able to do it without doing it, but it's going to make it 10 times easier. On to the next step. So this kit does come with directions, and it says remove the bumper. Yeah, that's easier said than done. Now luckily, I'm not saving this bumper, it's messed up. So I just pried the clips right out of this bumper and just ripped it off. The two lights, I probably should have removed first, but they broke right out. The lights themselves are intact. This was on the old plastic piece for the top cover of my bumper. Obviously you have to remove the trailer harness. There's two clips on the back. You can see them really clearly here. You just push them in and it'll pop right out. Obviously you have to disconnect the wiring harness there. This was obviously a piece I believe I'm going to save. We'll see on the next step here. But this is actually just the cover plate for the spare tire receiver. You can see where I drilled it to try and get to that pin, right? That's where that drain hole was at. But this clip sucks. It's got these tabs on it that you're supposed to bend out of your way. That's the only way to get this to pull out, but they're locking this thing right here. So I'm gonna get this all cleaned up. The sensors, the rear parking sensors, I'll show you. So these are them, right? And they sit in these little housings. And when I take the bumper off, I'll show you. But there's a tab, you can pull these out. But I'm gonna get this cleaned off and spray curls on all these bolts to pull the steel bumper out of place. And on to the next step. Okay, take the bumper off, just like that, they say. Unhook the sensors and take it off. Now, I'm sure there is a right way to do this and a wrong way, and I'm pretty sure I did it the wrong way. But I kind of like how I did it. This truck, again, came from Canada, and as you can see, she's a rusty mess. I got to clean all this up and paint it and take all this apart, so I'm not going to show any of that on camera, but what I would like to show you is these are those backup camera sensors, okay? Now the sensors themselves look like this. Now you can see these ones are white. I'm going to use a little thinner and wipe that white off and paint a very, very thin layer of black on the sensor. Now this, it's hard to do with one hand here. This is the clip that was in the bumper. So what you do is the sensor's held on in these two tabs, and you spread these two tabs apart slightly, and then the sensor lightly push it back out of the way. This retains in the bumper. I thought I might have to reuse these in the new bumper, but I don't. The bumper has these built into it. It's actually going to be a lot more sleek looking. The only deal is on those rear sensors, I'm going to have to wipe that white off, because I think my bumper was actually painted at one point in time anyways, and then lightly, and then hopefully it won't destroy the sensor. Worst case, I'll have to get new ones, but they were working before I backed into stuff. Other wiring harnesses, obviously, I think the other way they could have taken this off is taken all the main bolts off of these main horns, which I'll be replacing anyways, because the new kit came with different horns, obviously, for the new bumper. You can see someone coated this frame coming from Canada. Luckily, I only bought it after there a couple years, but I definitely can see I'm going to clean all that up and paint it. But I've got Krolls, that's the other thing, and in doing anything like this, it's always easier. It looks a lot easier on most YouTube channels. This stuff is amazing, Aerocroll. I use it quite a bit. I'm going to let that soak and sit on there, and you can see I've used quite a bit of tools. There's a couple hid. So what I did is I took the outer white piece off on the outside and left the horns in place. It's pretty tricky to do, but once you take the plastic off of the top of the bumper, and I just, like I said, I ripped mine off, you'll see these bolts in the top of the bumper. There's one under here, and then there's actually two on the inside, which you can't see right now because they're part of this bracket. This is the one that I toasted. Here, this one's intact. These two here, there was one here. So if you can remove all of those and your truck isn't as rusty as mine, and there's also two bolts right behind the license plate, right there and right there, that bolted in here and here. So anyways, that's one way to do it, and the way that worked better for me, because then I could get to all these clips and these sensors a lot easier for me, but otherwise you got to sneak in there and crawl around. Don't worry about this. This is actually accessory power that I've bypassed. I used to have a plug in my bed, but I was getting too much junk in it when I was hauling around stuff, so I got rid of it. The other thing you have to do is, taking off the bed is, the tailgate rather, is pretty straightforward, but there's a backup sensor that plugs into the harness back here. You have to remove, and it snakes up into this hole, and that's your tailgate. So anyways, I'm gonna get this all cleaned up, and then we'll put the new one on. Okay, let's talk about bumper prep. Next steps is getting these sensors actually into the new bumper, as well as bolting on some brackets. So what I've got here is a little example of what I've done. So this is one that's currently installed, and you're not going to really probably see this very well, but there's a little Allen right here and one right here underneath that clamps the sensor in place. Now the directions say to sand off the tabs on each sensor. Here's a sensor I've already removed and painted, and it says to remove these tabs, but they must have done an update to these bumpers, because you don't have to do that. There's actually slits in here, and these actually help lock them into place so they probably don't rattle around. Once you've got the sensors off the truck, you're going to see that they actually have a rubber grommet around them. You can see where I masked it off, and this one I painted a little, but it comes off anyway. So this you just pull it off the side, and then you add these little rubber cajavises right over the top, and then slide them right into position. Pretty straightforward, and they come off. They're a little tricky to take off. I can show you a trick that I did. Here's one that's still installed. All right, it's got the little piece of rubber on it. So that red tab, you pull that back, it comes out. I'm using a screwdriver. And then since my truck is so well loved and dirty, I've stuck the screwdriver inside there and lightly pulled up on that tab after I pulled the red piece back, and then they pop out pretty well. I'm going to put dielectric grease on these plugs, and I am putting the sensors in the exact same locations. It doesn't say to do that, but I don't think it matters. Outside of that, I'm just prepping a couple other things. Rough Country's pretty cool. They give you two different plates for the rear brakes. This must be an older style. My plate is square. You can see it bolts through the face here. There's nice little Allens. I'm sorry, the light stinks, but my plug's nice because it has two clips and it just snaps right in. This is, you're not going to see this with the light, but it's the rear tire feed tube. I'm bolting it on ahead of time. It talks in the directions about doing it like last step. I don't know how easy that's going to be. I might leave these slightly loose. The other thing I really like about these plates that are bolted into place is all this stuff's nylock, so I'm not going to have to worry about rattling off. So we will get the rest of these sensors put in, and then I'm going to take the old main brackets for the old bumper off. I've got crolls on them, been resting for a while. I'll pop those off, put the other ones on, and then we'll start kind of putting it back into place. On to the next step. Okay, wrap up of this bumper install. For now anyways. I'm not gonna wire in the lights. I don't have time, I gotta work tomorrow. It's really good looking bumper actually. Really like how it turned out. Now, actually it's not, I'm gonna raise it up a little bit. I have some room to move it up, and I'm gonna need a friend here to come help me get it dialed in, because I still don't like that little bit of gap there. I want a little gap, but not much. You can see that. I can go up about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. It'll be perfect. A couple things about the bumper that I don't like, or I don't mind, but I don't think people would like very much. One is there's no more locking mechanism on your spare tire. It's just direct access there. Probably fabricate something, but that is no longer a thing. The other thing is the license plate lights. I'm probably going to fabricate something in here to illuminate my license plate lights. I have the lights, they're behind the bumper right now. Not going to mess with that right now. It's not a requirement or a law in the state that I'm aware of. Excuse me, but it definitely is a kind of a nice thing to have. I'm going to wire the actual tail lights. They're reverse lights in, let's say. I might wire them into those actual spotlights, but we'll see. I don't know, that's probably not legal either. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. Hey, I got a new shop. I'll be doing a little bit more stuff in here, so hey, hit like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. Thanks, bye.